The wind screamed against the glass-paneled walls of my father's lakeside villa in Vermont, but it was nothing compared to the storm raging inside that dining room. "Congratulations, Ryan," my father said, sliding a heavy envelope across the oak table to my younger brother. "You've earned it. The villa, the company, the offshore accounts, all of it, his." I sat across from them, 34 years old and feeling like a child again. My palms were clammy against my slacks as I fought to keep my face composed. Ryan wouldn't meet my gaze. His lips were pressed thin, eyes downcast. My stepmother fiddled with her necklace, fixated on the floor. Then my father turned to me, his mouth curled in disdain. "And you, Ava," he sneered, "always the dreamer, too soft to survive in the real world." My stomach knotted. There were 4 others in the room, my father, Ryan, my stepmother, and the attorney, yet somehow, I had never felt more alone. He shoved a stack of papers toward the man in the suit. "Let's get this signed." "Dad," I said, voice cracking, "please don't." He scoffed. "Spare me, Ava, you made your choice. You walked away from this family to chase some foolish purpose overseas. No title, no fortune, just wasted years. You never asked why I left," I whispered. "You never cared. And I still don't," he snapped. "Ryan stayed. Ryan proved himself." "No," I said quietly, "he just told you what you wanted to hear." My father laughed, cold and bitter. "That's jealousy talking." Across the table, the attorney, Mr. Whitman, shifted uncomfortably, tightening his grip on the leather folder. "Actually," he said, clearing his throat, "there's something you should know before any documents are signed." My father scowled. "What now?" Mr. Whitman met his eyes evenly. "There's an amendment to the will, sealed and filed 6 years ago, by your late mother." My heart caught in my chest. My grandmother, the only one who had ever truly seen me, the one who used to say my quiet strength was more powerful than any roar. "What amendment?" my father barked. Mr. Whitman calmly pulled a yellowed document from the folder. "Your mother requested it be kept sealed unless you ever attempted to disinherit Ava." My father's face darkened. "She had no authority to do that." "She did," Mr. Whitman said, his voice firm. "She maintained 51% ownership in Harbor Crest Holdings until her death. You never contested it." The room shifted. Ryan straightened nervously. My stepmother froze, one hand still clutching her diamond pendant. Mr. Whitman turned to me. "Miss Whitmore, would you like to read it?" I shook my head. My eyes locked on the envelope clutched in Ryan's hands. "Read it," I said. He unfolded the page and read aloud. "In the event that my granddaughter, Ava Whitmore, is deemed unworthy by her father, I hereby grant her full authority over my share of Harbor Crest Holdings, effective immediately. All voting rights are to transfer to her upon activation of this clause. This amendment supersedes any prior agreements regarding ownership or decision-making within the company and estate." Silence fell over the room. Even the rain outside seemed to still, as if holding its breath. My father slammed a fist against the table. "What the hell does that mean?" Mr. Whitman straightened his shoulders. "It means Ava is now the majority shareholder. Nothing signed today can change that." My father shoved back his chair with a screech and shot to his feet, face red with fury. "This is madness," he barked. "She doesn't even understand the business." "Maybe not the way you run it," I said, standing. My voice was steady, calm, but I know how to lead, how to build something without destroying everyone around me. I stepped closer. "You said I was weak," I said, "but I never needed your approval." I turned to Mr. Whitman. "Let's move forward. We have a company to run." Ryan kept his head down. My stepmother opened her mouth, then thought better of it. My father remained standing, silent and rigid, the muscles in his jaw twitching. If you could have felt the shift in that room, how the power realigned itself, you would know. No screaming, no threats, just the quiet collapse of a kingdom built on control. He didn't say a word. He just stood there, hands gripping the back of his chair, watching helplessly as the world he thought was his slipped away. For the first time in my life, I saw it, unmistakable in his eyes. Fear. Not the kind that lashes out, but the kind that digs deep. The fear of losing something you always assumed was yours. "Please," I said gently, "sit." There was no cruelty in my voice. I wasn't here for vengeance. I only wanted the one thing he had never granted me, dignity. But he stayed frozen. It was Ryan who finally broke the silence. "Wait," he blurted out, voice cracking. "This isn't right." She left. His eyes darted around the room, desperate for backup. She abandoned the company. She wanted no part of it. I built homes for women escaping abuse. I funded transitional housing for veterans. I said evenly. I didn't run away. I ran towards something that mattered. He scoffed. That's all very noble, Ava, but you don't know how to run Harbor Cross. I know enough, I said, locking eyes with him, to know you've been skimming funds through a shell corporation registered under your old college roommate's name. Ryan paled. My stepmother gasped. Ava, stop, she whispered. This is family. Family? I asked, voice breaking. Was it family when you stood silent as he called me a failure? When he handed everything to Ryan and ignored every sacrifice I made for this family? You were never built for this world, she said, barely audible. I nodded once. You all made that clear, but Grandma thought differently. Mr. Whitman cleared his throat, stepping forward. Miss Ava, your grandmother left you more than shares. She left something meant for this moment. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a small, battered box. Inside, her old gold-plated compass. Beneath it, a letter, my name written across it in her delicate script. My fingers trembled as I unfolded it. My dearest Ava, if you're reading this, it means your father has done exactly what I feared. Don't hate him. He's a product of a world that taught him power must be loud. You were never weak. You were the quiet strength that held us together. This compass is yours now. Trust yourself to lead, always. Tears burned behind my eyes, but I blinked them away. I turned to Mr. Whitman. Let's proceed. As I signed the acknowledgement of my controlling stake, my father finally spoke. You think this makes you powerful? His voice was low, bitter. You think she gave you this out of love? She did it despite me. For the first time, I looked at him, really looked, not as a daughter desperate for approval, but as a woman who finally saw the truth. No, I said, she gave it to me because she believed I would build, not destroy. I walked out, my head high, years of rejection shedding from my shoulders like old rust. But outside, there wasn't peace. There was war. Because power doesn't silence enemies. It creates them. I had barely reached the hallway when I heard the footsteps. Ava, Ryan called. I turned. His voice was calm, but his eyes were calculating. You don't have to do this, he said. Do what? Push me out, he shrugged. That's your next move, right? I haven't made any moves, I said quietly. I simply stood up. He laughed under his breath. You think signing some papers makes you strong? You don't have the backbone for this. My heart pounded, but I didn't flinch. I'm not here to prove anything to you, I said. I'm here to lead, with integrity, something this family forgot. He stepped too close. I give you 2 months, he sneered, before you crawl back. This company isn't a charity, he said coldly. It's a battlefield. No, I said, lifting my chin. It's a platform, and I'll use it to build, not break. You're naive, he muttered, turning away. But the way he left, stiff shoulders, clenched fists, told me everything. This wasn't surrender. It was only the beginning. The next few days moved like gathering storm clouds. Word spread fast. Ava Whitmore was back, and this time, she wasn't just visiting. People whispered my name like it was a ghost story. Some with hope, others with fear. I didn't fire anyone. I didn't hold flashy meetings. I listened. And what I found was worse than I had imagined. Departments pit against each other, promotions handed out for loyalty, not merit. Employee burnout ignored. Concerns silenced. This wasn't a company. It was a crumbling kingdom. And Ryan had learned from the king himself. One afternoon, I stepped into the break room. Conversation died instantly. Please, I said, raising a hand. You're on break. Sit, eat. A janitor named Rosa stood slowly. We weren't allowed to sit when Mr. Ryan walked in. I blinked. That changes today. Her face softened, and the room seemed to breathe again. That night, I stayed late, poring over reports. I found 3 misused budgets. A shady deal with a questionable supplier. A list of employees terminated after raising red flags. This wasn't mismanagement. It was rot. If I didn't act soon, I'd be blamed when it all collapsed. The next morning, Ryan burst into my office, a folder clutched in his hand. You want the CEO seat? He spat. Let's see you survive this. He threw the folder onto my desk. Inside, screenshots, emails, photos, all fabricated. These are fake, I said, flipping through them. He smirked. Can you prove it? You really want to destroy me? I asked quietly. I want what's mine, he hissed. You were never meant to win. I stood, calm but unshakable. I'm not here to win, Ryan, I said. I'm here to fix what you broke. I see power, he sneered. You see weakness. Then he turned and walked out. And I realized, this wasn't rivalry. This was war. But I had something Ryan didn't, the truth. Within 48 hours, the headlines flooded in. New CEO accused in charity fraud. Family feud at Harborcrest Holdings. Ava Whitmore, legacy leader or liability? It didn't matter that it was fake. The public didn't wait for the truth. My inbox exploded with PR alerts. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Shareholders were panicking. I had barely begun, and I was already bleeding credibility. I told myself to stay calm. But late one night, locked in my office, I broke. Not loud, not messy, just silent sobs, curled up on the couch. I wasn't crying because they didn't believe me. I was crying because maybe, just maybe, my father had been right. Maybe I wasn't cut out for this. Then came a soft knock. I wiped my eyes fast. The door opened anyway. Rosa stood there with a paper cup. Thought you could use this. You didn't have to, I whispered. You looked like you needed it, she said, walking in. No one ever brought me anything when I cried in this room. So maybe someone should break the cycle. Something inside me cracked again, but this time, in a softer way. Thank you, I said. She sat down across from me. Miss Ava, she said, do you want to know the truth about your family? I looked up, unsure. She nodded. I've worked here 28 years, I've seen more than most, and I've seen what they hide. You always looked me in the eye, Rosa said gently. I couldn't speak, my throat tightened. You may feel alone now, she continued, but you've got something they'll never have. Loyalty, earned through kindness. I blinked, trying to steady my breath. Why are you helping me? I asked. Because someone once helped me when no one else did, she smiled. And because this company doesn't need another king. It needs a healer. The next morning, I walked into the boardroom with quiet resolve. I let them speak first. Accusations, doubts, demands for resignation. One shareholder even threatened a lawsuit. When they were done, I stood. If anyone here can prove those documents are real, I said clearly, I'll step down today. Silence. Then I dropped the original reports onto the table, evidence of Ryan's financial misconduct. Hush money, side deals. Then I turned on the projector. Footage played. Ryan entering a locked office. Plugging in a USB. Transferring files. The timestamp matched exactly when the forged documents were created. No one spoke. Truth matters, I said. But I didn't come here to destroy my brother. I came to repair what he broke. I turned to the company attorney. My grandmother gave me this role, not because I was perfect, but because I still believe in people, even those who hurt me. I'm not pressing charges, I continued. But Ryan is suspended, and a full investigation will proceed. There were stunned expressions. Then Mr. Halpern, a retired board member, stood. I doubted you, he said, thought you were just another idealist. But today, you reminded me why we built this company. It was about people, not power. And just like that, the energy in the room shifted. Ryan didn't come back. But 2 days later, I received a letter, in his handwriting. Ava. I don't expect forgiveness. I didn't just want control, I wanted to be seen. I always thought you got the love I never did. Maybe you just earned it differently. Ryan. I folded the letter and placed it beside my grandmother's compass. Not every ending needs a sword. Some arrive in stillness. And some beginnings are born from grace. The office felt different now, not quieter, but more awake. It had been a month since the boardroom turned. The media retracted the false claims. Some tried to call it luck, but those who mattered knew the truth. Not because I shouted louder, but because I held the line with integrity. One person, though, still hadn't reached out, my father. No messages. No lawyers. Nothing. I assumed he'd vanished, licking his wounds and blaming the world. Until one Sunday morning, I walked into my office, and there he was. Sitting across from my desk. Hands folded. Eyes dull. I had to see it, he said. See what? That you. He swallowed. Didn't burn it down. I said nothing. He looked older, tired, for once, not like a man in control, but like one who'd lost something that mattered. You were right, he said softly, about me, about Ryan, about how this place stopped being about people. I studied him, unsure if I could believe it yet. Why now? I asked. He pulled something from his coat, a photo. Me and Grandma. I was 12, covered in paint. She was laughing. She said you'd change this family, he whispered. I just didn't want to believe it. If I did, I said gently, it's because she believed in me. He nodded. I came to say something. Something I should have said long ago. He met my eyes. I'm sorry, Ava. For everything. Part of me wanted to say it was too late. But healing doesn't start with blame. It starts when someone finally breaks the cycle. So, I nodded. Thank you. I just needed to say it before I ran out of time, my father said. Then don't, I replied gently. Fix what you can. It's not too late. He didn't respond. Just gave me one last quiet look, before slipping out the door. 2 weeks later, Rosa stepped into my office with a folder. What's this? I asked. A list of every employee your father let go for speaking up, she said softly. Figured you'd want to see it. I opened the file, read every name, and then we sent out letters. Each one an invitation to return. No questions asked. Not because I needed redemption. But because legacy isn't built on bloodlines. It's built on how you make people feel when you leave the room. Months passed. The company didn't look flashier. It looked warmer. Ryan never returned. But we met once for coffee. No apologies. No digging up the past. Just two siblings trying to understand each other. Maybe that was enough. My father kept his distance. But one day, I received a receipt. A 7-figure donation made in my name to the women's shelter where I once worked. No note. No signature. Just his quiet way of saying he was trying. And that was enough. Because I didn't get revenge. I got something stronger. Respect, peace. A future no one could take away. Now, when I walk into that boardroom, I don't hear whispers. I hear the footsteps of people who believe in me. All because one day someone said I was nothing, and I proved them wrong without becoming them. If my story moved something in you, drop a comment below. Tell me what part hit hardest. Tell me what you would have done. I read every word, because connection is what this journey has always been about. And if you're facing your own version of being underestimated, know this. You don't have to shout to be heard. You just have to stand steady in your truth. Subscribe to the channel if you believe in healing through strength and strength through kindness, because sometimes, the quietest ones carry the loudest legacies.